Hi guys, it's Brooke here. I have a super quick favor to ask. When you have a moment, please take just a second to give this podcast a 5-star review. This will help me to continue the podcast and continue to bring these resources to the community. Thank you so much for that 5-star review.
For mindfulness, you don't need to do
Mhm.
yoga, you don't need to do meditation. You can just breathe in and out as you breathing in and out, but becoming aware of this breath. And maybe in
Mhm.
those 5 breaths in and out, you and your child's gonna co-regulate and connect, and you're gonna do it together before your child leaves the room in the morning. All about this. How do you create small opportunities during the day to bring that awareness? Because also
Mhm.
what mindfulness gives us brings awareness to our beingness, to our
Mhm.
body, first of all. I think that's number one. It's very important. Often we skip our body. It's kind of like it doesn't exist, right?
Mhm.
Such an important a part of us. So it brings awareness towards our body, but also towards our mind and our feelings.
Hi guys, it's Brooke here. I am so excited to tell you a little bit more about this week's episode. So, a while back, I had on a specialist in mindfulness, and Andrea did such a wonderful job of describing mindfulness and providing some really practical approaches to applying her recommendations and her techniques. And so I wanted to have her back on to further our conversation. And I just think that mindfulness is so important to consider, to be aware of as we are guiding special needs individuals, whether we're parents or professionals. It is such an important life skill and practice, maybe a better way to say it. But I was so grateful for all of her wonderful knowledge, and she was gracious enough to come back on and have another conversation. And I plan to do further episodes on practices that support the nervous system and support regulation. So, especially for parents and professionals. And I think these practices can certainly be modeled. I know they can be modeled for our neurodiverse children and clients as well. And so I'm excited as I'm exploring more topics and themes. And if you have any ideas or thoughts, please always feel free to email me. That's bwagner@findinghopeonthespectrum.com. And that's always going to be in the show notes as well. But stay tuned for some more episodes on other types of practices that support regulation, balancing of the nervous system, mindfulness, these kind of holistic approaches to healing and support. So I hope you enjoyed this week's episode. All right. Well, we are here today, part 2 of our mindfulness conversation. And we have the pleasure of having Andrea back. And if you didn't listen to part 1, I would highly suggest that you go back and listen to part 1 first. That'll give you the foundation for what we're going to expand on today. But before we get into our topic, I'm going to go ahead and introduce our guest and tell you a little bit more about her. So, Andrea has a master's degree in education. Her career began as a primary and secondary teacher, and she was fortunate at the time to teach in inclusion. As a young teacher, she had the great opportunity to teach one autistic student who opened her mind and expanded her world in ways she never thought possible. She also started working in the field of applied behavior analysis, ABA, and decided to study ABA with the Florida Institute of Technology. While this experience immensely expanded her knowledge of autism, she still felt that something was missing. She was immediately drawn to RDI, relationship development intervention. And when she first encountered it in 2019, she felt it was the perfect program, which combined her knowledge and experience from working with children with special needs and their families. She studied with RDI Connect in Houston and was taught by Dr. Goodstein and Dr. Shealy, the founders of RDI, throughout her training. In 2024, she completed the PDA Pathological Demand Avoidance North America Level 1 certificate program. She was also fortunate to study yoga and mindfulness for neurodiversity with the amazing teachers Shawnee Thornton Hardy and Gurmfa. And Andrea has always been interested in the human mind and the importance of positive thinking and mindfulness. She always makes sure to incorporate positive thinking into her work. She delivers yoga classes, both one-on-one and group classes, and RDI professional training in the UK and Europe. These practices have impacted and improved the lives of many of her clients. So welcome back. So happy to have you.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm super happy to be here.
So last time we talked a lot about mindfulness and what it is and how you apply it with your clients, in particular the parents that you work with. And we also talked about how we can apply it in our lives as professionals. And so we didn't get a chance to talk about how you apply it to neurodiverse individuals. And I know that you really have a lot of great ideas and activities and ways that you go about doing so. So I'm so grateful that we were able to have this conversation. And prior to recording today, we just had a wonderful conversation about how important mindfulness is and, making sure that we're emphasizing the value of really embracing this practice before looking at applying it to the children that you're working with. So I'll let you go ahead and get started and share a bit more and kind of kick us off.
Oh my God, I have this feeling. I want to share so many things with you, things which serve me and which serve families who I work with. First of all, I think it's so beautiful to be in that state of mind where you are actually aware of yourself. It's
Mm-hmm.
such a big word, being or a phrase, being aware of yourself. And that
Mm-hmm.
leads us to mindfulness, right?
Mm-hmm.
And as we spoke just earlier, in order to teach others to be mindful, we gotta be mindful first.
Mm-hmm.
What does that mean? I need to be mindful towards myself. I need to experience this. I need to live this. I need to have this feeling. I need to put this into practice. And the others around me, they will see it. And we can divide this. It goes in two separate directions. If we talk about RDI consultants and parents, our work in order to teach parents to be mindful, we gotta be mindful as consultants. So
Mm-hmm.
if I talk to parents, you gotta see the small things and be grateful for small moments in your day. I gotta practice that before. Because if I don't do it, even if I'm on Zoom with a family, they will feel it.
Mm-hmm.
We feel the energy. We can't fake it.
Right.
Our kids, and we can't fake it with our families who we work with.
Mm-hmm.
So that's on one side. And then on the other side, with families as well. They need to be first mindful with themselves, parents, before they teach their kids to be mindful towards themselves.
Yeah, and I think that we had talked about energy before we started recording and how powerful that is. And I think that is just such a testament to that, that if you are mindful of your energetic presentation, where you're coming from in that moment, whether it's as a consultant or whether it's with your child, that, however you're coming from is going to have an impact on those around you. And in our work, we're trying to help parents to guide their children and set them up for success and have discovery opportunities. And so it really comes into play when the parents are highly stressed or dysregulated or in crisis or not in a real present state. The child's going to feel that. And so not only is it important for the parent because of their own well-being and happiness and quality of life, it also impacts the child.
Straight, you don't need to say anything, you don't need to argue with the child's gonna feel your emotions. How you feel is gonna go to your child. And it's the same with the consultants and clients,
Mm-hmm.
families. It's exactly the same thing. You do when you go to the store, you feel the energy of the shopkeeper who is standing in front of you. When you go to the seminar, you feel the energy of other people next to you or this teacher who is presenting there. You feel, and we do remember energy. We memorize people by their energy.
Yeah. And I think that's such a powerful reminder as we're talking today about activities or opportunities or techniques that parents can use with their kids. First and foremost, making sure that the parents are setting the stage for their own mindfulness and prioritizing that first, right? I think that's what you had shared with me earlier, that it's so important that we not just jump to the kids and working on their mindfulness, but that it starts with the parents.
And Brooke, it's impossible. We gotta be very honest here.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost impossible to work on true mindfulness with a child or with your family, with your client, if you don't practice on your own, if you're not the role model. It's a lot to process here, I know, but we are very honest here, and I like this topic because the purpose of being mindfulness is to tell the truth, to feel the
Mm-hmm.
truth and to tell the truth. And that was a few years ago now, I started here in London yoga. I was already doing yoga groups for neurodivergent kids after school. And then I got this idea one day, and I was like, you know what? How about I organize yoga and mindfulness? I call them yoga and mindfulness instead of yoga and meditation because sometimes, and especially for the kids, I was not sure how much they are aware, if they ever experienced this, if they know the meaning or no. So kind of like yoga and mindfulness with some classes I called even yoga and music because I knew that they know the word music. But anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So then I got this idea. So let's start to let's what I want to actually because it served me. Okay. So I started to practice mindfulness meditation yoga in the morning before I start my day. So I had this thought, I want to try with kids with needs. If this is gonna
Mm-hmm.
serve them before they start their busy day at school. So I approached
Mm-hmm.
this school where I was renting the space and I said, wow, I would like to start yoga classes in the morning before they start. So they thought that I'm crazy, but I didn't care. I said,
Yeah.
just like give me the same space in the morning, 45 minutes before they start. First, what they said to me, there is no way no one's gonna turn up. I
Mm.
said, I'm here, I'm gonna be there. Kind of
Mm-hmm.
like kids with needs, they will not they will not care about this in the morning. And I
Right.
said, no, 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 I have this idea. I would really like to try it. And so they allowed me, and I tried. And I ran this club for maybe 2, 3 years. I think 3 years.
Wow.
And every single week, kids who sign in, they continue. It was such a beautiful experience. And from class to class, I could see how they grow, how they open up more. And it was just beautiful. How much more they were regulated before they started their day. And this is what I transfer towards parents later on. So maybe, parents, maybe they don't practice yoga. And I'm not saying here, oh, we should all teach yoga. It's not about this. Like for mindfulness, you don't need to do
Mm-hmm.
yoga. You don't need to do meditation. You can just breathe in and out as you breathing in and out, but becoming aware of this breath. And maybe in
Mm-hmm.
those 5 breaths in and out, you and your child's gonna co-regulate and connect, and you're gonna do it together before your child leaves the room in the morning. But
Mm-hmm.
it's all about this. How do you create small opportunities during the day to bring that awareness? Because also
Mm-hmm.
what mindfulness gives us brings awareness to our beingness, to our
Mm-hmm.
body, first of all. I think that's number one. It's very important. Often we skip our body. It's kind of like it doesn't exist, right?
Mm-hmm.
Such an important a part of us. So it brings awareness towards our body, but also towards our mind and our feelings.
No, I think
So
that's so fantastic. I think it would be great to have you share some of the activities that you did in that group that were meaningful, that was really bringing those kids back because, them coming back for that long is pretty telling.
mhm. So absolutely. So in yoga classes, usually I again depends on the group, depends on the needs, and if I do one-to-one, and depends on the language, and of course, I always incorporate all the poses or breathing techniques with the RDI strategies, and I think the power
Mhm.
is there. So they're able to follow me. I pose a lot. I use declarative language. I also work if they know how to do certain poses, I give them their space, I fade out my support and all other techniques which I learned through RDI. But so I normally how I start my yoga or mindfulness lessons through first we take some moments to ground at the beginning
Mhm.
through very slow breathing,
Mhm.
literally in and out. Sometimes again I use visuals if it's needed. If not, then we just do it together. And after that we do some yoga poses,
Mhm.
and I have like plenty of them from mountain pose to I use a lot of animals
Mhm.
because it's like animals. So, and I think it's for especially for neurodivergent people, it's they like those visuals, whether I use cards or I don't need to use them anymore, but they like to give the name which they know. Like
Mhm.
if I would say, let's go and do the mountain pose, they know what mountains is, majority of them. Or if I would say, let's do cow or cat, then
Mhm.
it's easier for them to memorize that way. Or
Mhm.
a crab or a snake or any other. So for breathing as well, we have a lot of animal names. Like we have like for fire, breath of fire, we use lion's breath.
Uh-huh.
Or
Oh, I love that.
yeah, or we have angel's breath as well, or we have bunny breath, or I would say like our snake breath, or so a lot of animals or things which they can easily recognize, and they already exist in their system.
Mhm.
So, and then I would mix there some breathings, maybe one breathing and few poses, then one breathing technique and then few poses. And then
Mhm.
in the last part, which we call mindfulness or meditation or calming time or music time, I divide into two parts. One is where we use affirmations, and
Okay.
I think I use them with all my I use them in the past and I still use them with all my clients. So we do say out loud affirmations. And then we do meditate in a way that I give them an option to whether they want to close their eyes or keep them open. It's totally optional. They
Mm-hmm.
can lay down or they can stay seated. And then we listen to the music. And sometimes music is very calm and relaxing without words. But sometimes I play some music with words. And again, depends on the group. But I try to bring as much as it's possible the awareness to the rhythm and the words if they are in to the lyrics if they are there, and I try to
Mm-hmm.
explain them and guide them to really focus or feel that feeling or that vibration from the music. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes we just practice. For instance, there I learned that through Kundalini practice because I also finished Kundalini. I've done the teaching training course. And that was
Mm-hmm.
actually funny because I practiced Kundalini and I was very curious in the past how I could certain parts of Kundalini bring there. Like the Kundalini is very strong with music and affirmations or that rhythm or breathing techniques. So I was hunting who could possibly teach me, and then I can break things down and teach certain parts people with diverse needs. But unfortunately, I couldn't find anyone. So the only option was to finish the whole course, which I did, and then I kind of took what I needed for my clients. So going back to all this, so there is one
Mm-hmm.
beautiful mantra and with finger movements, which I, use for myself everywhere, but I also
Mm-hmm.
sometimes as a part of meditation in the class with kids, we use it together.
Uh-huh.
And if the child is okay with fine motor skills, then for instance, I would say to them, let's, cross our legs or lay down if they choose that. And then whether we play this and we do it together, or we just say it out loud and then we would pick up certain words. So for
Mm-hmm.
instance, love, and then we would start with love. Love begins with me.
Mm.
And or we would say peace begins with me. And if
Mm-hmm.
so, if kids can't move their fingers for each word, so
Mm-hmm.
then they would just put them together like this. Or if they can't even do this, if they struggle with fine motor skills, then it's okay that they just put like hands in a praying position or on their
Mm-hmm.
heart, one hand
Mm-hmm.
on the top of the other one. And that's also beautiful. It's enough, doesn't have to be perfect or certain ways. I always
Mm-hmm.
adjust to the level of the child because the most important thing is that the child feels safe, that the child can follow me, that understands what I'm trying to do with him. But and sometimes I also play some drums as well for certain
Mm.
sound, and they also like this. So I play there. It's a beautiful
Yeah.
place. I take it as a game, and they
Mm-hmm.
love it. They love it.
Mm.
And then going back to your question a little bit, I want to give you a little bit more ideas and to your audience. And many parents I train, and I said
Mm-hmm.
because they were like, want to do this. We want with the child practice more. It's a beautiful thing to do it. And it's a actually wonderful opportunity for parents who are doing RDI because they already get so many tools in terms of language, in terms of waiting,
Mm-hmm.
processing, and all this, and breaking things, scaffolding. So it's much easier than to do yoga and mindfulness with your child.
Mm-hmm.
So I have this one beautiful example where I started to do with the boy, but I was doing not parents, and he really liked it. And then my target was to help him to become independent so he can do it on his own at his home before school starts,
Mm.
before start his day. And
Mm-hmm.
imagine this, how powerful this is. And
Yeah.
we got him there.
Mm. That's amazing. I
Go
mean,
in there,
that's
that.
really,
No, and I said, if I can give just one mindfulness tool to this boy, something like this, wow. Like I'm happy. My mission is done there. So this is one example, but now going back to another important topic is that how do we approach this? Because not every parent's gonna come to me and say, oh, Andrea, can train me? I want to do it yoga, or can you do with my child and do the same thing? But
mhm,
what can we do there to support parents to start? Where do parents need to start from? It's
right.
that with themselves. They need to practice on their own first.
Hmm.
And why I'm saying this, because so many times parents would come to me, they would say, Andrea, just teach my child. I'm gonna give you like literally everything. Just teach my child mindfulness because deep down I know that this is the one skill, one tool which I want to give to my child. And even when I won't be here anymore, I just want my child to be mindful, to use this, because if the child uses this one day as an adult, he's safe, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and I'm like, I can't just teach your child this. He needs to see that at home.
Right.
I
Yep.
remember my grandparents, especially my grandmother, when I was a child, every time when I would come to her house for the weekend, she would pray
Hmm.
before meal. I didn't have a clue what the prayer is or was at that time.
Hmm.
She annoyed me so many times, but I needed to be there. I needed to be quiet and sit. And, you know, I look at her most of the time, or I gaze at her because I was at that table. She asked us to do that. But over the time, what happened? I started to pray without even understanding completely what this means. But as I was getting even older and older, I started to reflect back and see the value and understand this. Okay, that was not just the prayer, that was actually a gratitude. So you see, it started.
Yeah.
People ask me, where did your gratitude started? No, here now at this time when, a few years ago or 5, 10 years ago when I started to work on myself, it started there when I was 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years old.
Right. Yeah.
So why I'm bringing this out? Because it's so powerful what we do in front of the kids.
Right.
Even if they don't engage. So actually, all the time when parents come to me and they ask, how do we teach? And then I say, start with yourself. And then they say, what do you mean by this? Or how do I, if they ask first, how do then I teach the child? I said, you don't teach the child anything directly yet. Hold on. And then they're
Hmm.
like, why do I need, why hold on? Why wait? What do I then
Right.
do? And then I said, well, first you practice for yourself. And that's the one of the biggest obstacles for parents.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of time. It took me a lot of time. So
Hmm.
then, it varies where do I start with parents? It depends where parents are, right? But
Right.
usually start with something what is very small, very tiny. And
Hmm.
where that is, that the parent starts to breathe every morning if we decide to start on a positive note. Child
Yeah.
is around, child doesn't need to do anything, but this child has to see you doing the practice, having 5 breaths in and out in the morning, or play
Hmm.
your favorite song is equal the same, right?
Hmm.
That for yourself and show yourself love in that moment in the morning. You start the day that way and just say it out loud. This child might be on the opposite side of the room, but
Hmm.
it's gonna hear, feel what you do. And if you
Right.
do that every single morning, this is
Right.
the that's how the learning starts, right?
Yeah.
Or It doesn't have to be at the beginning of the day, but maybe that is if you want to bring your child more awareness about your worthy, about who you
Mm-hmm.
are. I didn't go and I say parents, okay, who are you?
Mm-hmm.
Let's start there.
Yeah.
Who are you? Or if the child struggles with the physical body, I said, then I don't go straight parents to say teach your child to like his body or like his hair or whatever is related to the body. I say
Yeah.
I ask, what do you think about your own body? How do you see your body?
And the
And if
parent reflects on that.
the parent struggles there, if
Mm-hmm.
doesn't struggle, then it's brilliant. We can do it faster. But if the parent struggles with his or her own body and physical
Mm-hmm.
beingness, then we gotta work on this first.
Right.
how,
Right.
how on the earth this parent's gonna help child to love his body if parent struggles with acceptance or love towards his body?
Yeah.
And we often have this wrong belief that if the child has autism, if the child has certain diagnosis, that we need to skip ourselves. No,
Right.
the rule is the same. Whether your child has something or it's neurotypical, you gotta start with yourself, from yourself.
Mm-hmm.
This is the most important thing. And going back to this part with, I remember with one client, one mom, the girl she was struggling a lot with self-love, actually. Self-love in a way that I'm not good at writing, I'm not good at reading, good at making things, and in so many things. And so luckily she's verbal, so she was able to express many times, whether through the words or behaviors. And then
Mm-hmm.
worked for a long time with the mother on this area. And then I said, well, and the mother was, how do I teach her? How do I teach her? How do I teach her? I said, stop asking me how to teach her. Let's check first you. Took us a long time to help this mother to work on the same emotions, same awareness on herself. Luckily, we did it. He was able to transfer this to teach her child much faster. This it was
Mm-hmm.
so much easier for her mother to teach her daughter.
That's really deep. Really
It's
deep.
it's very deep. And then I received one beautiful video from them. So we
Mm-hmm.
moved
Mm.
even further there. Imagine this. Like now we are working on higher level of mindfulness on both. But everything what we do, I start with mother first, and and then
Mm-hmm.
the mother ended up this one of the last things which we've done together was when she created, obviously the mother mastered this skill, and then she taught her daughter, and then she created for her some affirmations and she put them
Mm-hmm.
to the bed. And every morning when the daughter wakes up, they read them together. And
Mm.
before she goes to sleep, they read them together as well.
This show is brought to you by Therapeutic Approach to Growth. Therapeutic Approach to Growth helps families with relationship and behavioral needs. Their holistic programs are individualized to honor and respect each family and their autistic son or daughter's sense of self through programs such as relationship development intervention, naturalistic ABA, and animal-assisted services. If you're finding yourself frustrated or discouraged with your current behavioral programs and would like to see more long-term meaningful growth for you and your family, then contact TAG today at www.tagforgrowth, that's TAGFORGROWTH.com, to learn more about how to schedule a consultation or how they can offer you the help your family needs, whether in person, remotely, or in a school setting. Again, that's www.tagforgrowth.com. It's beautiful. Well, it sounds like your approach to this and your experience with this is really more than anything that once the parents are getting into the rhythm of the mindfulness themselves and also clearing things that maybe they need to clear through this practice, then that modeling, and I'm assuming will then lead to an invitation to participate for the child. But the parents really have to be in the rhythm of practicing mindfulness first.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I don't know if that's just me, but I have so many families coming to me and where I see kids struggle a lot with mindfulness.
Mm-hmm.
They are, it's so difficult. Everything is so challenging for them, every single thing. And we
Mm-hmm.
know that as kids, they have massive anxiety, failures everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine yourself if you would be in their shoes, like dealing with so many failures through the day.
Mm-hmm.
I maybe have, I don't know, 5, 10 failures maybe through the day. And it's hard for me. So I need mindfulness to save me, to guide me through.
Right.
Imagine going through the day without having mindfulness tools.
Yep. It'd be really, really challenging and you'd feel lost. And yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that it's so powerful. What I love about what you're sharing too is that it's an experience that the parent can have with their child, and the child can experience that guiding approach from their parent. And together they can go on that journey and experience it. And I'm sure learn together because it is a practice, right? We never reach the final destination, right? We're not ever fully enlightened in this lifetime, right? We're just on this journey of becoming more and more enlightened through this process.
We also, I think our attention and our focus very often is on the things which are hard. We talk a lot what doesn't work. We talk a lot about what should work, how we should do things,
Mm-hmm.
and we spend 90% of the day thinking and talking and doing towards, behave towards that way. And then we do maybe 10% on the things which are good, which are working, and emphasizing all this. One simple example today, when I was doing yoga one-to-one, and I do that a lot, as I mentioned earlier, with affirmations. So I spend some time and I teach those kids how to say things out loud, which are right now, like, I am beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
And every time when I do it, I see those kids, they like to say things which are good, which are right now, and they are part of them. I'm
Mm-hmm.
kind, I'm beautiful, I can do it, I'm good at this, I'm good at that.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't we, as humans, especially us who are aware of all this, and we do have more power than those kids. I mean, mental, we have the freedom to choose. Why don't we train our brains to spend majority of our day, even 75%, 60%, looking and pointing to the things which are good, or toward pointing in the parts of us which are good. We also struggle with
Mm-hmm.
this, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I want to talk. I want to talk more about myself. What am I good at? What am I achieving? What are my goals? What are my dreams? I
Mm-hmm.
said one mother, going back to the real life, one mother approached me a couple of weeks ago and she said, Andrea, my child, it's very 5 years old, very high functional, neurodivergent boy. And she said he shouts out, I hate everything.
Mm-hmm.
I hate. And he shows the emotions. He's very angry. And then I said, and she said, how can I stop this? What is, how to teach him? Then I said to her, let's just post here. And I said to her, can you model something? Let's test this. Let's see. I want to see where you are at because I really care. I want to meet the parents where they're at, not where I want them to be, or what I want them to say. I want to meet them where they are. And I said to her, just let's do one practice there. Let's to do as a test. I say, try to see you have the whole week until next meeting and test if you can say out loud to yourself, I'm beautiful, or I love me. She came back.
What did she come back with? I couldn't hear you.
She came back saying, Andrea, I tried. I really tried, but I can't. And this is the reality, Brooke. I'm talking through my own experience. Like
Yeah.
if you'd ask me 10 years ago, can you say out loud those affirmations to yourself that you love yourself, that you're beautiful?
Hmm.
Can you do that every single day? How long does it take? 5 seconds? Even less. I would say no. I would be the same. I would have the same reaction as this mother. So I think, masking, when we talk about masking, we really need to be honest there and approach things you know, in a in a good way and be aware that whatever we are the role model for people around us. Same
Hmm.
rule for teachers. I spend a lot of time with teachers, with educators. Is the same thing, and I can tell you this from my personal experience. On outside, I masked perfectly
Hmm.
well when I work in the classroom. That I am okay. That I believe in myself. All that was very fake. Inside, I was struggling a lot with fears around how to approach certain kids because neurodivergent because I didn't know if when they've done something, my anxiety went up, and I lacked that part, like self-love and mindfulness was not there. I just didn't have the tools. Like I had like more like some tools to if somebody attacks me to kind of shout out or step back and freeze, and that was it. But this is not enough, we know.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about for families that are listening right now, what would you suggest would be one of the very first starting point if they wanted to delve into this and start to embrace the concept themselves and model it for their kids? What would be kind of your first go-to suggestion?
That's a very nice question. So first thing, I think that just that awareness, okay, there is a path, there is a formula, and I need to start with myself. I don't need to do 5 minutes. 30 seconds is more than enough. People, when you mention mindfulness, people very often have this belief, oh, I have to have a lot of time. I have to have a lot of time. As more as I'm practicing mindfulness, I'm doing it less and it serves me more. I'm going to repeat this. As more as I'm practicing mindfulness, I'm doing it less, maybe a minute here, there in the morning, in the afternoon, but it's literally a minute or 5 minutes walk, and it serves me more.
And do you
I
think that that's the case because it's internalized and it's integrated? So when things come up, then you have that
self-regulate.
response.
Self-regulate yourself better, so you
Mhm.
don't have big escalations. You manage to step out in time, right? You manage not to fight with another person when the other person is in fight already. So
Mhm.
you manage to do things. I see now these days small signs and I'm able to react on them like in a
Mm-hmm.
moment. So let's say, for instance, if I have the meeting and it was heavy one. So in the past, when I would not have mindfulness, I would just take everything in. But
Mm-hmm.
now I finish the meeting and first I thank for this, and that's 5 seconds. Thank you, creator, for this meeting as well. It's a learning for both of us, for both
Mm-hmm.
sides. And then I would do 5 breaths in and out. Or
Mm-hmm.
if I have more time, I would just go for a walk. So you see,
Mm-hmm.
I'm more proactive in a momentum.
Yep.
So I recognize more what my mind and my body and my soul need and in what they need in that moment.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
What you do actually with mindfulness, you put yourself at the first place. So you don't allow the other distractions to come at the first place, distraction with the phone, distraction with the texting, calling someone, looking on social media. We put all these things without even being aware of them at the
Mm-hmm.
first place, kind of we're using them for as a self-regulation tools, but actually they don't serve us long run. They're gonna distract you more, so you're gonna forget about your need from inside.
Yeah, that
It,
makes a lot of sense.
it's
And I
like
think,
taking medicine, right?
yeah, well, and I think that makes so much sense when we bring in the kids into the picture because when parents are able to, really have that healthy, it almost to me sounds more like their nervous system is really healthy and in balance when you're really integrated and you have this practice that they're going to be able to be more available to support their kids and to help them with growth, but also that modeling, and illustration of this idea comes into play. So, and I know you had mentioned earlier some deep breathing, and I know I've heard you talk about different types of breathing techniques. Are there techniques you could recommend to a family if they just wanted to start with, let's just say, breathing in the morning and modeling that? Are there types of breathing that are more beneficial to start with than others
For kids or for parents?
for parents?
But again, like there are many these days available, and I wouldn't recommend parents to jump straight into faster breaths or more complicated breaths. You need to do it gradually. And for many of us, it's hard to even slow down and focus on breathing. But I would definitely recommend parents start with slow breaths in and out, where you can actually focus and you hear your breath as it's going in and out. Just becoming aware of this part, it's very powerful. And then obviously later on you can, experience different breaths with a nostril breathing or fire breath or some other breathings or breathe in for longer time and hold maybe and you have all sorts of variations there.
Hmm. And the breathing, the slow breathing, talk a little bit more about the value of that, of what that is really doing. What is the intention behind that?
What a great question. So but the intention is actually very simple. It's to help you to be present, to bring you in that moment or right now.
Hmm.
Stillness, me being right now present in this moment. So my attention, my thoughts, my feeling, and my obviously behavior, they are all in sync and they are right now. And there is not before, there is not after. It's just right now, this momentum, this time.
Hmm.
And when you do this, you train your brain, you train your system long run to be more present with other things. That's the power. That's the aim of this breathing and, slow breaths and being aware of this momentum. And
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
And you know how often we say this in RDI, you gotta slow down and you gotta pay attention to small achievements, small steps, like, you gotta count them. And there is no way that you can achieve this if you don't really slow down. And one of the techniques is also with breathing, not just with actions while you're doing other things, but also when you practice breathing. And again, Brooke, all these things take less than a minute.
Right.
And
I
they are the best gifts you can give to yourself. Honestly, if you would ask me now, Andrea, what do you want to give yourself? What is one gift? You have all the money in this world. What would you buy to yourself every single day? I
mhm.
would say exactly the same thing. I want mindfulness for myself. And guess what? You don't need to pay for it. It's for free.
Mhm. Yeah.
Bucks.
It's incredibly empowering. And I think that I'm so glad we're having this conversation because I think it's so important for our community to embrace this concept and to think about, where we're at as a community with mindfulness. And I was curious kind of the path that you see when you're working with parents in this way and how you end up then inviting the children into the practice, or do they choose to participate when they see it as an example from their parents? What does that transition process look like to bring kids into the picture?
This transition happens on a few levels. One level is with the parent, which is the most powerful, because if you practice that mindfulness, if you experience fear, if you experience anxiety, if you experience doubts, okay, whether I'm with whatever. So then once when you empower yourself on that level, the shift with the child is faster. But you don't need to start from zero, because parents already done that, and the child has seen. Very often I said for parents, again, depends on the case, but very often I say parents, you just do it when the child is around. You just meditate when the child is around. You don't need to go to different room. We have all these beliefs. I have to go to different room. You just put there, play the music for
Hmm.
yourself. The child is there. Dance. If that's the one thing makes you happy, play the music. Children, we expect often from children to become something or do something better without ever seeing it.
Right. Hmm.
So yeah, yeah, and I have so many situations like this, and I'm like, and then I ask parents, hey, hold on, has your child ever seen you doing this or anybody else? No. How do you think the child's gonna know? So same thing. When we want to teach something, children, I say parents, don't do in your room on your own. Do it in front of the child. Don't
Hmm.
ask the child anything to do. Your only job there is to practice with yourself. Breathing, dancing, or whatever coping strategy you have. Also, when you're stressful, that's also what I do with parents. We parents, we all have this desire to give kids and teach them to cope well in challenging moments. But then you
Hmm.
see parents very often they don't share this experience with children, right? This experience when I go through the rough time.
Right.
And you gotta do that even if they don't understand, or you think that they don't understand, but they will understand the feeling and they will
Hmm.
observe your behavior.
Right. Especially if
So
you're explaining it to them.
it makes sense. So if I'm running late to an appointment and I have the
Hmm.
child in the car, just say out loud, I'm so frustrated now. The traffic is everywhere. I don't like it. I feel so stressful. I want to scream out loud, or I want to, I'm so angry right now. but I know I have those two tools.
Right.
I can breathe now because I'm driving the car, so I'm gonna breathe 10 times in and out, or
Mm-hmm.
I can say these two affirmations. I'm safe, and then you
Mm-hmm.
start to say, I am safe, or it's okay if I'm 5 minutes late to my appointment. So you see, the child is with you in the car. You don't put demand on the child to do anything, but you speaking out loud what's going on and how do you cope and deal and self-regulate with this stress. It's so powerful. We don't pay a lot of attention to these parts, and when we are with child, we try to
Mm-hmm.
hide this and that. We gotta shift our mindset a little bit and see where
Mm-hmm.
we are with all this, because those are the missing opportunities as well. Dr. Gassin talks a lot about autism and missing opportunities, but as you become aware of the momentum more with yourself in your own practice, you're gonna start to look at all these opportunities as the opportunities for growth. And of course,
Absolutely.
you can't do all the time, and we
Mm-hmm.
some deep topics today. No one is
Mm-hmm.
perfect, and we don't have to do it 24/7. And but when we
Mm-hmm.
start with ourselves, there is no way that we will not find the way how to deliver just the right amount of mindfulness for ourselves and for our children.
No, I love that. And I'm so glad you shared that example of modeling, authentic, real emotions and how you respond to it. And I think that is so important for all kids to see that it's okay to have those emotions. It's a human experience to have those emotions, and that you can do something about it and you can be empowered and you're not stuck in those feelings. And it made me think of listening to the telepathy tapes recently in their podcast, and how one of the adults was sharing that they're not so much upset or concerned that their parents are having emotions. They were more concerned that the parents were not expressing their emotions and trying to come across as everything was fine when it wasn't fine, and they knew it wasn't fine. And that is very confusing. And it goes back to kind of the energy we were talking about earlier, and how we can feel each other's energy. And so, there's just so much valuable, opportunity there. And as you mentioned, the teachable moments, being authentic and true, and then modeling this process. So I just think that's such a beautiful example and something that parents can start to do.
Yes, and again, going back to this awareness, if you are mindful towards yourself, then you're gonna be one step ahead and you're
Mhm.
gonna recognize those moments. And then there is no need to mask anything. We just, I feel like we are trying so hard to help kids not to mask,
Mhm.
but then we mask on our side.
Right. And we're just teaching that, if we are doing that,
And
then
then
that we're
that's what
teaching
you,
that.
yeah, and that's what you just
Hmm.
described in your own example. So
Hmm.
that confusion, that, the energy which is stuck there, this is so, it's so heavy for a child and then for parent as well. The situation is not pleasant for both sides.
Absolutely. Yeah. And yeah, it's just so freeing to be given permission to just be real and be honest and be in the moment and present, and not feel like we have to put on a front, as parents or even as professionals. I think it's a really freeing experience, and I think it's just so powerful.
And looking back now, my mom is wonderful, but I wish, Brooke, I wish that she taught me many more mindfulness tools. I
Hmm.
wish.
Yeah.
And, oh, luckily, I have this awareness and I was able to find my own way through life, to go to different, seminars, workshops, and learn about all this. It took me so long to do it. imagine if my mom would give me,
Yeah.
my path would be much easier.
Yeah.
So no matter if your child has needs or no, mindfulness is something what we all need in this crazy world.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. Well, I'm so grateful that we've had this conversation. I think that it can be really powerful, and I'm hopeful that our listeners can kind of take away just even that small step, of just modeling that mindfulness and putting yourself in first place, and really starting to embrace this journey, because it is a journey. It's a practice. It's not a final stop, right? It could forever be a journey.
As I said last time, Brooke, it's something it's one decision which you will need to make every single day. Every single day,
Hmm.
make that decision for yourself. It's I'm in charge and I'm important to myself. And one last
Hmm.
advice for your audience, don't go with those beliefs that you need to do it for a long time. Very short mindfulness moments are extremely powerful.
Okay, before we wrap up, I just want to make sure you have a chance to share with our listeners where they can find out more about you.
Yes, of course. They can visit my website, www.autismconnect.net. And you can always drop me an email on office@autismconnect.net. And I'm also on social media. You can find me there, guiding neurodivergent kids. And I have YouTube channel as well, same name on Facebook.
It's beautiful. Well, thank you so much for joining me again. It was wonderful. I thoroughly
Really
enjoy our
enjoyed
conversations. Yes. Thank
it.
you.
Okay,
And
so much. Thank you. And I'm open to do whenever, like I'm here. Yeah, I'm gonna wait on my side for your next.
yes, we'll have many more conversations. I know it.
It's very enjoyable. Thank you so much, Brooke.
Oh, thank you. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
Bye.
I'm dancing on the edge again. The wind is calling my name. I'm dancing on the edge again. This time I'm not looking back, babe. You can change me, you can tell me down. I'll leave echoes in every place I fly. I break the molds with rebels mind. I'm a hurricane of free, blowing mind.
The information provided on this podcast is for general informational purposes only. The content shared is based on the experiences, opinions, and perspectives of the hosts and their guests and should not be construed as medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment recommendations. The discussions and topics covered are intended to foster understanding and awareness of autism therapies, but are not a substitute for professional medical guidance. Before making any decisions regarding therapies or treatments, we strongly encourage you to consult with a qualified healthcare provider who can provide personalized recommendations based on your unique circumstances. By listening to this podcast, you acknowledge and agree that the hosts, guests, and producers are not responsible for any consequences, damages, or outcomes arising from the use or application of any information during the show.